Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bolt Action Reloading. In this week's episode, we're talking about Nosler brass. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you'd like to see how I and the rest of you make our group smaller, start now by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon. That way you get notified when I post next week's video and you won't miss anything. Guys, for today's video, I thought I'd make a short and sweet video talking about Nosler brass and what my first experience has been with it so far. If you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you'll know we've tried out a lot of different brands of brass. It might be surprising a little bit, but Nosler really hasn't crossed my reloading bench up until now. Without boring you to tears, generically speaking, the brass we're going to talk about is 30-06. In today's video, we're going to give you a whole bunch of statistics, what you might expect if you open your box of Nosler brass, and kind of compare it a little bit to some other brass that I had, just to give you guys an idea the actual quality you're getting out of this Nosler brass. One thing I will tell you, we're not going to life cycle it today. I'm not going to tell you how many firearms we get out of it. You're going to have to stick around, subscribe to the channel, and if I wear any of this stuff out, I'll probably make a video kind of giving you guys an idea of the lifespan that we were able to get out of it. One of the big advantages of going with Nosler brass in at least for 30-06, is being able to buy 50 pieces. Now, depending on what your needs are, most of my calibers, I don't have any problem buying 100 rounds of brass, and very frequently, like 6.5 Creedmoor when I bought my liable brass, I think I bought 300 cases out of the same lot. I just bought a whole bunch of 308 Winchester, again 300 pieces, just to make sure I had enough of the same lot. When it comes to 30-06, I wanted really good quality brass, but I don't need a lot of it. I'm not going to go out and shoot 100 rounds on any weekend of 30-06. If you do that for fun, good for you, but 50 rounds of 30-06 is plenty for me for a range trip, but to each and to his own. I didn't really need to buy 100 cases of liable brass. Otherwise, honestly, I've had really good luck with liable. It's pretty much the gold standard as far as brass is concerned that most people judge everything else by. I wanted something basically just as quality, and I didn't want to have to buy 100 rounds. I'm certainly not advertising for them, but Peterson brass, believe me, I've had really good luck with it. I think this stuff is really good stuff, but they don't make my caliber. 30-06 isn't available at Peterson because one of my favorite things is you can get 50 pieces of it. It usually comes in its own container. The brass is very well protected, which is one of the things we're going to talk about in today's video. You get less case dents. The brass is basically perfect when you get it and very high quality. But again, Peterson doesn't make 30-06 brass. Still looking for another option. One of the other options I was hoping, Norma, which I've also had good luck with, offers 25 round counts, or at least they used to. Unless I'm missing something, it appears that Norma has discontinued their 25 packs, and so I was just going to pick up 2 25 packs in Norma, except they don't exist. Now it's 100. 100 pieces of 30-06 brass I really didn't need. Shopping on Midway, I actually found Nosler brass was on sale, so this 50 pack here was about $47. I ended up picking some other stuff up, so I took advantage of one of their free shipping deals. So I don't feel a bit bad about, for quality brass, paying a little bit under $1 a case. I know there's cheaper brass out there, and we're going to talk about it today. Maybe that'll explain a little bit to why I really wanted quality brass. I thought about doing another video someday about the high cost of cheap brass. It depends on how much of your life you want to spend going through and sorting brass and determining what characteristics some has versus another to get the performance you want out of it. If you're anything like me and your time is valuable to you, spending a little bit extra on quality brass is really a good idea. So far, I'm really happy with this Nosler brass. At this time, I don't have a ton of firings on it, but I thought this was the appropriate point in time to give you guys the statistics on it so you can understand when you open a box of Nosler brass what you're going to get. We'll put a close-up on the screen so you can see all of the details on it, but essentially what this is advertising is that these are basically fully prepped and ready to load. I'm going to disagree with that because of the packaging that you're going to get with these. You're going to have some dinged case necks. It's just going to happen. But as far as being trimmed to length, chamfered and deburred, the flash holes are beautiful. Nosler brass is visually inspected and weight sorted. It probably won't be a huge shocker to you that the weight is very consistent. Their overall lengths were pretty good. The only thing I actually did with this brass when I first got it, I used my Sinclair expander mandrel to make sure the necks were in good shape and went straight to reloading. In case you guys are interested, I did weigh all these things ahead of time, so I will put some statistics on your screen, and you will see that before we fired any of these, the minimum case weight on these was 180.36 grains, max is 181.36 grains, so extreme spread of exactly a full grain. The average of the 50 pieces was 180.86 grains, and their standard deviation for weight was 0.239. One of the things that I had a lot of criticism on when I was doing my 6.5 Creedmoor brass evaluation was the accuracy of my scale. So I'm sure somebody's going to want to know, and I'm sure somebody's going to complain. All the weights were taken with my FX120i. This will report down to 0.02 grains, and I believe the accuracy is that, or it's very close. If you guys are getting hung up on that, this probably isn't the right video for you. But if you want to know the quality of the Nosler brass you're going to get out of the box, this video is for you. We fire formed all 50 rounds. And honestly, I was hoping we were going to be able to trim these to length just to even them out across the lot, see if there was any big variations, but these are still under minimum trim length. In case you might be unfamiliar, the trim length for 30-06 is 2.484 inches, and even after our first firing here, the majority of this brass is going to measure very close to 2.477 inches. If you're worried about having your case length a little bit under your trim length, this might not be the brass for you because basically every single piece is around this length. With the first firing, they really didn't grow in overall length basically at all. I didn't want to measure the entire lot because I figured they were going to grow with the first firing and it would be more consistent this way. But basically they're pretty close, all within 2 or 3 thousandths in overall length at the moment after one firing. And so I chamfered and deburred all the cases. In case you're wondering, post-firing, I actually weighed all of them again. The minimum weight went down to 180.32. Maximum case weight is now 181.32. So chamfering, deburring, I must have exactly dropped off 0.04 grains or whatever you'd like to blame, but they're all just that much lighter at this point. Our average case weight has dropped from 180.86 down to 180.83. And our standard deviation is basically the same, 0.2386 instead of 0.2391. Overall, brass is very consistent, but really what you want to know, besides having consistent weight, besides having consistent overall length, having all the case prep work essentially done for you right out of the box, flash holes are really good, is what is the internal case volume? I'm going to translate all this information to grains of water, though realize my process is to measure it with 91% alcohol, and then I convert it to water. Some people have asked me why I convert it to water. Because when you put your case volume into quick load, it wants to know what it is in water. It's pretty easy to convert it. I think 0.79 is the density variation between alcohol and water. The internal case volume on this brass before we fired it was almost exactly 69 grains. 69.02 was the calculation. After firing it, it's opened up. A good average is 70.5 grains of water, an increase in case volume of 1.5 grains. Now, just for fun, wanted to see our variation, and I realized this is the lazy man's way of doing it. I did not measure the internal case volume of every single case. I'm sure you guys would like to know. I did take the minimum and maximum. I know that it's not a guarantee you're going to have the widest variation, but that's what I did. I picked a couple additional samples at random, and they both fell in between those two values. And so the minimum case volume that I measured on the lot was actually 70.26 grains of water of internal case capacity, and the largest among the lot was 70.61 grains of water internal case volume. Basically, 0.35 grains from top to bottom on the lot. That may seem like a lot, but let's talk about some of our other examples here, at least as 30-06 is concerned. I have some samples of some of the other brass, which might make you wonder why I even bought brass, but I wanted to have a consistent lot that I knew was from the same lot, and I wanted some quality brass. I'm not trying to offend anyone if your favorite brass is going to be on the next brands of brass we talk about. When we get done with this load development, I want to be able to hand this rifle back with this ammunition to the guy, knowing that's as good as I could make it. And also knowing I didn't cut any corners. A couple other samples we're going to talk about is Winchester brass, also Remington, Federal, and Hornady. The Hornady brass I know has only had one firing on it. This brass actually came from some factory ammunition that was fired out of 15 cases. For consistency as much as possible, even though I couldn't trim the Nosler brass, all of our other brass has been put through the same paces. I've all annealed it, all pushed the shoulders back 2 thousandths, all sized the case neck with my 2 thousandths expander mandrel, and it's all been trimmed to length, chamfered, and deburred. The case lengths are very consistent across those groups, and then I've weighed all of the cases. The heaviest Hornady case out of the 15 cases I had was 180.46 grains, and out of 15 cases, the lightest case after all the case prep work was done was 176.28 grains. This was off factory brass, but I wanted you guys to have an idea of the actual weight variation that you can expect. Maybe if you buy Hornady brass, you're going to get a different weight spread. I know that I've purchased plenty of Hornady brass for my 6.5 Creedmoor before LAPA was out. seeing that percentage of case weight variation certainly was not unheard of. Now, what might actually make you feel a little bit better is taking our heaviest case and lightest case and measuring our internal case volume, the actual variance, keeping in mind our heaviest case typically has the lowest case volume and vice versa. The largest case volume measured was 7.53 grains of water. 7.14 was the lowest case volume of water. Only 15 cases in our sample, much smaller sample. The extreme spread was about just under 0.4 grains, 0.397. Keeping in mind it's converted, but only 15 cases in our sample. Moving on to something we have a much smaller sample of, Winchester, which we only had 25 cases of, and we had to sacrifice one to get our annealing profile. The weight spread on those was the heaviest case was 189.1, lowest case was 185.08. So 4 grains from top to bottom. Not a whole lot different than the Hornady. 0.546 was the lowest to maximum case volume, that variance that we saw in there. So as far as Winchester brass is concerned, maybe that sounds like a lot to you, but hold on to your hat, we're not done yet. Remington, which we have the largest sample of in comparison to the Nosler brass, we actually have 47 cases, one being sacrificed to our annealing profile. The heaviest case for Remington was 206.12 grains. The lightest case was 1.9202, which has given us an overall weight spread of 14.1 grains. These did come from different lots of ammunition, so seeing some variance there, shouldn't be surprising. But the actual lightest to heaviest case, when we measured the internal case volume, had a difference in internal case volume of 1.639 grains. I actually had a little bit more than 50 federal cases, but again, different lots of ammo, so it's going to be a little bit more unfair. Our heaviest federal case was 202.14 grains, lightest was 183.3, so a total variance of 18.84 grains from case to case. The variance in internal case volume between those two cases was 1.86 grains. So the largest internal case volume was 70.16, the lowest was 68.3 grains of water. All those statistics out there, guys, in case you're interested. Hopefully, if you have any of this type of brass and you're looking for a number to type into quick load, maybe it'll give you a good idea or at least a reasonable starting place. But hopefully, it'll also give you an idea in comparison to how good our Nosler brass was right out of the box. You guys can see that I did have to sacrifice one of the cases to get the annealing code. The actual custom code for the 14A insert was code 0150, which I think honestly is the highest number I've got out of my calibration sample so far. I did sacrifice my one for my Aztec mode so I could anneal the rest of the lot. But so we're only going to have 49 going forward. My OCD really hates that, but I think it's probably going to be worth it for having the right annealing setting. And it's very consistent brass, so I expect this to perform well over its life. I'm sure I showed you some pictures of the brass, how it came out of the box. Expect some case dents, nothing severe. The packaging is okay. It's going to protect the brass enough to get it here. You're going to want to set that neck tension. I pretty much do that on any new brass anyway, but you're going to end up, making sure that case mouth is formed correctly. And I think I did chamfer the case mouth just to make sure my bullet seating went well. But everything else, this brass is very good, very consistent. I expect great things from it. I'll try and answer anything within reason that you guys put in the comment section below. Even if you're not buying Nosler brass today, I think you should put it on your list of options for the future, especially if you don't need a ton of it and it's available in your caliber. Even if you're not buying Nosler brass today, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any comments or questions, put it down in the comment section below. If you like the content I put out here on the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you get notified when I post next week's video. I hope to see you back next week. And until then, stay safe in small groups.